Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been trying to get your foot in the door with some truly massive government infrastructure projects, you are absolutely going to want to pay attention today. We're breaking down a highly talked about new contract engineering opportunity with the Indian Railways. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's start with the number that honestly caught everyone's eye right off the bat, 76,000 rupees a month. For a contract role, that is a highly competitive number, and it's definitely turning some heads in the engineering space. But as with literally all government postings, the devil is entirely in the detail. So to figure out if this role is actually the right fit for you, here is our agenda for today. We'll look at the RDLI engineering opportunity itself, then break down the specific vacancies and compensation. After that, we'll cover eligibility and requirements, weigh the pros and cons, and finally, show you exactly how to apply. All right, part 1, the RLDA engineering opportunity. So who is actually doing the hiring here? It's the RLDA, which stands for the Rail Land Development Authority. They operate directly under the Ministry of Railways, and they handle massive land development and infrastructure modernization. Seriously, if you've seen those incredible plans lately where old, outdated railway stations are being completely transformed into these sprawling commercial hubs, yeah, that's the RLDA at work. Joining this team means you get direct exposure to these heavy-hitting, highly visible projects that are literally reshaping the country's transit system. Now, before we go any further, I absolutely have to mention a crucial detail. The source material we're looking at right now is an indicative vacancy notice. Think of it kind of like a movie teaser trailer. It means these are preliminary details, basically a heads up to get candidates prepared. The final granular details could still be tweaked in the official release, so definitely keep that in mind as we go through these numbers together. Moving right along to part 2, vacancies and compensation. Okay, so out of the 40 tentative posts they've announced, there is a really noticeable skew. We're looking at 30 spots dedicated to site engineers in the civil discipline, and just 10 spots for electrical. And honestly, that makes perfect sense when you think about the logistics, right? You're going to need a lot more civil engineering muscle to pour those massive concrete foundations for a modernized railway station before the electrical engineers can even step in to wire the whole shebang up. Now, let's circle back to that 76,000 rupees salary. Look closely, because there's a big catch here. The notice explicitly marks this pay as strictly consolidated, or all-inclusive. And that phrasing? It is absolutely critical when you're evaluating any government contract. In standard government jobs, the extra allowances are honestly half the appeal. But all-inclusive means exactly what it sounds like. What you see is what you get. You are not going to receive standard perks like a house rent allowance, a dearness allowance to offset inflation, or a travel allowance. You get a flat 76,000 rupees, full stop. It's totally up to you to manage your living and commuting expenses out of that one fixed sum. Let's jump into part 3, eligibility and requirements. Let's see if you actually qualify. The hard filters they've given us in this indicative notice are pretty straightforward. First up, education. You need a full-time BE or B.Tech degree in either civil or electrical engineering, depending on the post. Part-time tracks or diplomas just won't cut it for this one. Second, the maximum age limit is set at 45 years. Actually, that's a pretty generous age bracket compared to a lot of entry-level government roles. It heavily hints that they aren't just looking for fresh grads. They really want candidates who bring some serious real-world seasoning and practical site experience to the table. But when it comes to the exact amount of experience you need, well, the indicative notice intentionally leaves us hanging. Instead of dropping a solid number of years, it just casually states, as detailed in the vacancy notification. So what does that mean for you? It means you can't just blindly fire off your resume today. You've got to track down the fully detailed official RLDA documentation the second it drops. That document is going to be your holy grail. It'll dictate exactly how many minimum years they want, and more importantly, the specific type of experience they demand. Are they looking for hardcore on-site execution, a project management background, specialized design skills? We won't know for sure until that final doc is out. All right, part 4, the catch. Let's weigh the pros versus the cons. Every great opportunity has its trade-offs, right? On the plus side, you get a very high monthly payout, and gaining top-tier site exposure on Government of India railway projects is going to look absolutely phenomenal on your resume. But you've got to weigh that against the limitations. You are trading the long-term security of a permanent government gig for a short-term contract. You've got to cover your own housing and travel because of the zero allowances. And honestly, the biggest kicker? The location is strictly pan-India. That means frequent relocations are a very real possibility. You could be posted or transferred literally anywhere in the country as the project demands shift. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, How to Apply. If you've weighed the risks and decided that the high pay and that incredible project exposure are totally worth it for your career, here is your action plan. First, head directly to the careers section of the official RLDA website. Second, the exact moment that detailed notification goes live, read it top to bottom to verify those elusive experience requirements. Third, make sure you use their exact required application format and definitely keep an eye out for any core addendum, those official updates or corrections they sometimes post. Finally, get that application submitted online. Now, we all know government applications can sometimes be a bit of a maze to navigate. If you hit a roadblock, the Notice proactively gives you some direct contact info. You can reach out to the Deputy General Manager of HR at their New Delhi head office. The phone number is 011-2332-8254, and they're based right at the Connectus Tower 2 near Ajmeri Gate. And whatever you do, burn this date into your brain, May 22nd, 2026. That is the absolute hard deadline to get your entire application sorted, perfectly formatted, and submitted. Seriously, do not wait until May 21st to start looking for that detailed notification. So I'm going to leave you with this question to assess your own personal fit. Look at where you are as an engineer right now. Is the prestige and the massive scale of these Indian railway projects worth the inherent uncertainties of a short-term contract and potentially living out of a suitcase for a while? You've got to decide what matters most for your career trajectory right now, the comfort of stability or the thrill of the build. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you on the next one.